It's 7:43 on a Wednesday morning and you're sitting in traffic doing the math again. Not out loud, just the quiet background calculation that never fully shuts off. Rent is due Friday. The car insurance hits next week. There's a work happy hour tonight you said yes to 3 weeks ago when it felt far away, and now it doesn't feel far away at all. You make decent money. You know you make decent money. And somehow the month keeps running out before the paycheck does. Here's the thing nobody says clearly. The problem isn't usually the number on your paycheck. It's which side of 3 invisible lines that number puts you on. Cross the wrong ones and a $90,000 salary can feel like you're drowning. Cross the right ones and $65,000 can feel like room to breathe. The salary isn't the whole story. The threshold is. This video is about 3 specific salary levels where something real shifts. Not the fantasy ones from LinkedIn posts. Not the ones that require a trust fund or a tech IPO. The 3 levels where the actual daily experience of having a job and paying for a life quietly stops feeling like an emergency and starts feeling like something else entirely. And I'll warn you now, the third one does something to people that almost nobody is prepared for. Most people reach it and immediately walk into a trap that undoes the whole thing. My name is Nick, and I spend a genuinely unreasonable amount of time figuring out why 2 people with nearly identical salaries can live in completely different realities. If you've ever looked at your paycheck and felt like the math should be working better than it is, subscribe and hit that like button because today we're mapping exactly where the lines are and what changes when you cross them. Quick thing first. Not a financial advisor. Not financial advice. Just patterns, numbers, and the part of the conversation nobody wants to have at the dinner table. Let me introduce you to 2 people. Same city, same cost of living, similar jobs in the same industry. Maya earns $58,000 a year. Derek earns $61,000. $3,000 separates them on paper. But Maya crosses a threshold Derek doesn't. And the difference in how their lives actually feel is not $3,000 worth of different. It's a completely different category of daily experience. Hold on to them. We'll come back. Here's the framing that makes all of this click first. We talk about salary the wrong way. We treat it like a single number that either works or doesn't, but salary doesn't operate in isolation. It operates against 3 things simultaneously: your fixed costs, your tax bracket, and your financial cushion. And depending on where your number lands relative to all 3 of those, the same paycheck can feel like abundance, or it can feel like a monthly crisis with a 2-week warning. The 3 levels aren't arbitrary. They're the points where one of those 3 variables flips, where the math stops compressing you and starts giving you air. Let's climb them. Level 1, the survival line. Roughly $45,000 to $55,000 for a single person in a mid-cost city. Below this line, something specific happens that has nothing to do with discipline or priorities. Your fixed costs, rent, utilities, car payment, insurance, minimum debt payments, consume so much of your take-home that every variable expense becomes a negotiation. Groceries, a haircut, a friend's birthday dinner. Each one is a small financial decision that requires actual thought. Not because you're bad with money, because there is genuinely not enough slack in the system for anything to go wrong. And here's the research that explains why that's so exhausting. Princeton economists Sendhil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir spent years studying the psychology of scarcity. What they found wasn't that poor people make bad decisions. It was that the mental load of managing constant financial tightness consumes cognitive bandwidth the way a background app drains a phone battery. Their term for it is tunneling. When you're short on money, your brain tunnels toward the immediate shortage and loses access to longer-term thinking. Planning, perspective, patience. The practical result is that the person below the survival line isn't just financially stressed. They're making every decision of their day with a partially occupied mind. Every conversation, every work meeting, every parenting moment, happening while part of their brain is quietly running a cash flow calculation in the background. That's not a character flaw. That's cognitive tax. And crossing the survival line is the first place it starts to lift. At around $50,000 in a mid-cost city, after taxes you're taking home somewhere in the range of $38,000 to $40,000 a year. That's roughly $3,200 a month. In most American cities, that's not comfortable. But it's the point where a careful budget starts to have about $300 to $500 left over after genuine fixed costs. Not wealth, just margin. The difference between margin and no margin is the difference between a flat tire being an inconvenience and a flat tire being a crisis. Maya crossed this line. Derek didn't. Not because of the $3,000 salary gap. Because Derek's fixed costs are higher. He signed a lease he couldn't quite afford when he got a raise 18 months ago. Same income category, completely different margin. And margin is the whole game at level 1. The first thing that shifts when you cross the survival line isn't your lifestyle, it's your nervous system. The background calculation quiets, not completely, but enough. And that quiet is worth more than the dollar amount suggests. Quick honesty check. Think about the last time a surprise expense under $500 genuinely stressed you out for more than 10 minutes. If it did, you're probably still inside the survival zone regardless of what your salary says. The number isn't the measure. The margin is. Level 2. The stability line, roughly $75,000 to $85,000 for a single person. Higher for families, but the principle is identical. This is the level people talk about when they say they want to stop living paycheck to paycheck. And it's real, but it's not what most people think it is. The stability line isn't where money stops mattering. It's where a specific kind of fear goes away. The fear of the single bad event, the transmission, the medical bill, the roof. Below the stability line, one bad event can cascade. It puts you behind on something, which creates a late fee, which eats into next month, which means next month you're already starting with a deficit. It's a ratchet that only clicks one direction. One bad event becomes 3. Above the stability line, a single bad event is expensive but contained. It doesn't cascade. You absorb it and continue. That containment is worth more than any specific purchase you make with the extra income. Here's what the numbers actually look like. At $80,000 in a mid-cost city, your take-home after federal and state taxes is roughly $58,000 to $62,000 a year, depending on your state. Call it $5,000 a month. For a single person with sensible fixed costs, that's real breathing room. An emergency fund becomes buildable, not theoretical. Retirement contributions stop feeling like money you can't afford to lose. A car repair is an annoying Thursday, not a 5-alarm emergency. Let me show you what that breathing room is actually worth in dollar terms because people underestimate it dramatically. The average American household carries about $6,300 in credit card debt at an average interest rate around 22%. That debt exists almost entirely because of moments where the margin wasn't there and the credit card was. Someone below the stability line doesn't put $600 on a credit card because they're reckless. They do it because the alternative was missing rent. The interest on that $600 at 22% over 2 years is another $280 quietly charged for the crime of not having enough cushion at the wrong moment. Crossing the stability line means you stop paying the financial fragility tax, not because you're smarter or more disciplined. Because the math finally gives you enough room to not need the credit card as a bridge. Now here's what nobody warns you about at level 2. And this is the part that gets people. The stability line is where lifestyle inflation becomes genuinely dangerous. Because for the first time you have enough margin that spending feels consequence-free. The nicer apartment, the lease on a car you don't need, the subscriptions that stack up, each one individually is affordable. Collectively they rebuild the compression you just escaped. Economists call it the hedonic treadmill. You upgrade, the upgrade becomes normal within about a year, the satisfaction evaporates, and you're back where you started emotionally, but with higher fixed costs permanently attached to you. This is how someone earning $85,000 ends up with the same financial anxiety as someone earning $45,000. The salary doubled. The lifestyle caught up. The margin disappeared again. The stability line is real. The trap inside it is just as real. The only people who actually hold onto what crossing it gives them are the ones who let the margin stay open instead of immediately spending it closed. Derek, by the way, hit this level 2 years ago. He celebrated by upgrading his apartment and leasing the car. His salary crossed the line. His margin didn't. Level 3, the optionality line. Somewhere between $110,000 and $130,000 for a single person. And this is where it gets psychologically strange. The first 2 levels were about removing fears. Fear of the emergency. Fear of the cascade. Level 3 is different. Level 3 isn't about removing a fear. It's about gaining a power. Specifically, the power to say no. At this income level with sensible fixed costs, you can maintain a genuine emergency fund, max out a $401,000, contribute to a Roth IRA, and still have discretionary income left over. The retirement accounts alone are doing something mathematically significant. A maxed $401,000 at $23,500 in 2024, invested in a basic index fund at historical average returns, doubles roughly every 10 years. At 35, that's potentially $47,000 by 45, $94,000 by 55, nearly $190,000 by 65. From 1 year's contribution. From 1 year. But the math isn't actually the most important thing that happens at the optionality line. The most important thing is what it does to how you show up at work. There's a specific energy that comes from knowing you could leave. Not that you want to. Not that you're planning to. Just that you could. That you have 3 months of expenses in cash, a retirement account with real money in it, and no debt that would make leaving catastrophic. That position changes how you negotiate, what you'll tolerate, how you respond when your manager says something unreasonable at 4:45 on a Friday. You stop performing desperation. And the strange thing is that stopping that performance makes you more valuable, not less. The person who can walk away from a conversation without flinching is the person everyone in the room starts listening to more carefully. Here's the research that explains why this matters beyond the feeling. A 2010 study published in Psychological Science found that even a brief experience of social power, the sense that you have options and others need you more than you need them, measurably improved cognitive performance, creative thinking, and negotiation outcomes. The safety net doesn't just feel good. It functionally makes you better at your job in ways that tend to produce more income, which deepens the safety net further. This is the compounding effect that nobody puts in the personal finance brochure. The optionality line doesn't just make life feel better, it makes you more effective at building more of it. Now, the dark side. Because I promised you one and it's real. The optionality line is where scope creep becomes the enemy. Not lifestyle inflation this time, that's a level 2 problem. The level 3 version is subtler. It's when the salary feels like a rival. When you hit $120,000 and the psychological relief is so significant that you mistake the feeling of financial safety for actually being financially safe. Here's the gap that gets people at this level. Earning $120,000 and having $120,000 in net worth are not the same thing. Not even close. A person earning $120,000 who carries a $40,000 car loan, a $300,000 mortgage at 95% LTV, $15,000 in student loans, and $8,000 in credit card debt, has a high salary and a fragile balance sheet. The income feels like optionality. The debt load means any interruption to that income triggers a cascade that looks a lot like the level 1 problem in an expensive suit. The optionality line is only real if the net worth is being built alongside the salary. Salary is the rate of water flowing in. Net worth is how much is actually accumulating in the bucket. You can have a fast flow and a leaky bucket simultaneously. Most people at this income level do. Real optionality isn't earning $120,000. It's earning $120,000, while your net worth grows by at least $20,000 to $30,000 a year. That's the line where the number on the paycheck starts building something durable underneath you instead of just flowing through. So here's the framework. 3 questions you can answer in about 2 minutes that tell you more about where you actually stand than any salary comparison ever will. 1. What is your monthly margin? Take home minus all fixed and recurring expenses. If that number is below $400, you're inside the survival compression regardless of your salary. 2. How many months of expenses do you have in liquid savings right now? Not investments, cash. 1 month is fragile, 3 is functional, 6 is where the cognitive tax actually lifts. 3. Is your net worth growing? Not your salary, your net worth. Everything you own minus everything you owe. If that number isn't increasing by at least 15 to 20% of your gross income annually, the salary is flowing through the bucket, not filling it. The 3 salary levels are real. The shifts they produce are real. But the salary itself is just the input. What you do with the margin between what comes in and what goes out is the actual variable. Maya and Derek make nearly the same money. Maya's margin is $600 a month and growing. Derek's is $80 and shrinking. Same salary bracket, completely different trajectory. Here's the truth I'd want a friend to tell me directly. The finish line most people are chasing is a salary number. The actual finish line is a margin number, a net worth trajectory, a monthly cushion that can absorb a bad event without triggering a cascade. The salary gets you to the starting line of each level. What you do with the margin is the race. Pick your level, not the aspirational one, the next one, the one that's actually reachable from where you're standing right now. Figure out what's compressing your margin at that level. Fix the compression before you chase the next salary bump. Because a $20,000 raise that immediately gets eaten by a nicer apartment and a leased car doesn't move you forward. It just runs the same movie at a higher budget. The math is simple. The discipline is hard, but the first step isn't discipline. It's just knowing where the lines actually are, and now you do. If this changed how you think about your number, do me a favor and drop a comment telling me which level you're at right now and what's compressing your margin most. I actually read them. And if you want the other side of this picture, the exact net worth levels where the world starts treating you differently, that video is on the screen right now. Go watch that one next. I'll see you in it.